The following is a brief overview, a longer video and article whose details are given at the end. Our fundamental problem as humans is arguably our left-right political divide. Being apparently endemic to the human species, present in all races and cultures, it is genetic, embodied in our genes. If one has human genes, one will tend to be either leftist or rightist, in the same way that one will tend to be either male or female. As Gilbert and Sullivan sang, the traits are stable. Little liberals normally grow up to be big liberals, and little conservatives to be big conservatives. The political divide being genetic, the question is, where did it come from? What are its roots? If we understand something's origins, we have a better chance of handling it. Conversely, if we don't understand its roots, we have little hope of dealing with its consequences. On Darwin's theory of evolution, what we have to do is to look back into our evolutionary past for situations where species that had such a political polarization had a survival advantage over those that didn't. We find such situations in the climate. Homo sapiens, modern man, appeared around 300,000 years ago as a hunter-gatherer on the African savanna, probably living much as the Kalahari Desert Bushmen do today. In a climate that fluctuated wildly due to recurrent ice ages, with lesser variations in between. The figure shows the average world temperatures over the last 400,000 years. Sapiens emerged at the onset of the ice age shown. We are at present at a relatively cool point in an interglacial period that started around 11,000 years ago. There could be hundreds or thousands or even tens of thousands of years of cold, dry weather with semi-desert conditions, little vegetation, few game animals, and correspondingly small human populations. Then within a few generations things could change radically. Temperatures rose, the rains returned, vegetation became lush, hunting was good, and there was an easy living for all. Defining the social gene as the one determining individual social behaviour, in such times its best adapted form was egalitarian and leftist for expansion. Everyone had his part to play. The elderly and physically handicapped stayed back in the camp looking after the small children, while the able-bodied adults and older children were all out hunting and gathering for more food, to have and feed more children, who would then have and feed still more children, and so on till the newly available ecological space was occupied. There being more than enough food for everyone, there was no competition, and hence no need for authority or any kind of social hierarchy. The reigning leftist ethos prioritized diversity, equality, and inclusion, with the emphasis on fertility and the female principle in general. Then without warning, and within an equally short period, things could change drastically. Temperatures fell, the rains failed, rivers, lakes and waterholes dried up and then vanished, and semi-desert conditions returned again, leading to conflict between human bands for access to the dwindling resources. In such times, the best social gene was rightist, for tight, authoritarian, male-oriented militaristic groups that prioritized the survival of a hard core of fighting fit adults. The elderly and physically handicapped, and in the last resort even the children, were abandoned to their fate, probably to be eaten by a leopard or hyena. Because, and this is an essential point, the climatic reversals occurred too fast for evolution to accompany. The optimal social gene was for both kinds of political orientation. Leftists for peaceful periods of abundance, rightists for conflictful times of scarcity. Rough and ready metaphor is a desert island scenario. where a shipwreck leaves a certain number of survivors and a certain amount of food. Were the survivors leftists, they would share the food out equally till it was gone. Then, if not saved by a passing ship, all would die of starvation. Were the survivors rightists, they would first form gangs that fought each other to the death till only one gang was left, whereupon its members would likewise fight each other to the death till only one individual was left. With all the food for himself, he would survive longer and have a better chance of being saved. Should this actually happen, one set of rightist genes would have survived, and no leftist genes. The leftist and rightist principles being antithetical, a society comprising only these two types would tear itself apart in incessant internal conflict. There has also to be a middle. In peaceful times of abundance, it aligns with the collectivist left, and in conflictful times of scarcity with the individualist right. Being essentially conformist, we will call it the conservative middle. Politically speaking, Homo sapiens is therefore an unholy standoff. One can hardly call it an alliance of two essentially antithetical types, leftists and rightists, with an intervening middle. In practice, the two are best considered separate subspecies, evolved under disparate ecological conditions to meet disparate survival criteria. A key discriminator in the left-right divide is compassion, or empathy, a concern for the well-being of others. In peaceful times of abundance, it reinforces social cohesion, and in evolutionary terms is good. In conflictful times of scarcity, where the bottom line is individual survival, it diverts scarce resources from those best equipped to survive, and is bad. Rightists cannot, however, openly admit to a lack of empathy. Were I a rabid rightist, it would not be in my survival interest to tell my possibly leftist neighbour, "You might fondly imagine that I would help you out in time of trouble. In fact, if I thought I could get away with it, I would cheerfully grind you up into mincemeat and sell it as cat food." Principally because this would preclude any chance of him ever helping me should I need it. Where our public images are concerned, we are all ostensibly honourable men. One might conclude from all this that rightists are inherently hypocritical. One would be correct for excellent evolutionary reasons. In a crisis situation of general starvation, the best survivor is the unscrupulous smartass who convinces others of his collective solidarity, thereby gaining their support, but in fact ruthlessly pursues his own self-interest. For the true rightist, hypocrisy and callousness are not smears. They are essential tools in his survival arsenal. Ethics in general for him is loony leftism, to pay ostensible lip service to, but to dispense when he can get away with it. Where the leftist guiding principle is, "Do unto others as thou wouldst have them do unto thee," the rightist equivalent is, "Take good care that others can't do unto thee what thou wouldst do unto them." In overall political terms, let the arses of rich be licked, let the noses of the poor be ground. For anyone interested, this and other videos are on my YouTube at Jeremy Fiennes 9331, with text versions on my academia page. Googling Academia Jeremy Fiennes should get to it.